Hey folks, Paul here with PatTech. In this short video I'm going to share with you some great information about Capture One Pro. I've been using Capture One for 2 years now. I converted from Aperture version 3 when Apple abandoned all its Pro users and decided to focus on the iPhone. So I was forced to make a choice, and everybody, like a herd of cattle, went towards Lightroom. I guess they assumed that, because it's made by Adobe and Photoshop was so good, that was the answer. And all I've heard for 2 years is nothing but complaints about Lightroom being slow to boot up. It doesn't do this, da, 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 da. So I looked in the other direction and found Capture One. And am I glad that I did? Oh my God, the color rendition is amazing. Its cataloging capabilities, it'll change your life in the way you organize your images. It's changed my life for sure. It makes things so easy. I can go back and forth from Capture One to Photoshop. It's not a replacement for Photoshop by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, for retouching and a lot of heavy-duty, manipulations and stuff that I might do in Photoshop, I'm certainly not doing those in Capture One. But Capture One has some fantastic color grading tools. The image quality, the rendition of the image from Capture One is fantastic. And so typically what I find myself doing now is a lot of stuff I used to do in Photoshop, I'm doing it in Capture One. And so I'll show you some of the basics of what I'm doing and what I've discovered about the program, and hopefully that will help you in your endeavors to find a better cataloging, color correction tool, whatever you want to call it. I'm certainly glad I went to Capture One, that's for sure. Let's check it out. First things first, so this is what Capture One looks like when you open it up for the first time. And the first tip that I would give anyone, whether you're using Capture One, Photoshop, or what have you, you might find this kind of unusual, but if you look under the View menu and you come all the way down to Place Browser at the right, Place Tools left. This one, I think, is going to help you if you're right-handed, like most of us on the planet are. So if I click on this one, you'll notice that my tool palette has been moved over to the left. So this is the default view in Capture One. At least when you open it for the first time, you'll see your palettes on the left-hand side. And most people don't even think to place them on the right. But if you are right-handed, and with these widescreen monitors that we have these days, why would you want to be dragging from left to right all the time when you can have your cursor sitting here at the right and you can just quickly and easily move back and forth on the right-hand side? So that's the first hot tip that I would give anybody new to Capture One. Okay, so now you can see that I have Test Catalog open here. Under the File menu, you have two options really for either a catalog or a session. So a larger body of work, you want to use a catalog. A smaller body of work, like a tethered shoot, you could use a session. So catalogs are great because they allow you to capture everything in a larger body of work, and I'll give you an example of that. So if you look here, there's my catalog for 2017, there's my catalog for 2018, images for 2017. So the beauty of this is that in a 2018 catalog, if I open it up, I have all the images that I've shot in 2018. I've only got one place that I have to go and look. And so the first thing we should do is let's bring a couple of images in. I'm going to click on Import here, and I'm going to bring in a couple of photos that I did on a shoot not too long ago for Think Tank Photo. Now you notice the images come in fairly quickly, which is nice. First thing that I do in my workflow, I want to check the exposure. And so I move from the File menu here on the top right, I move over to the Exposure menu, and I click on that panel, and I have Histogram, Exposure, Dynamic Range, Levels, Curves, Clarity, and Vignetting. So these palettes, I put them together on my own. These are the ones that I use the most. And I want to come here to A for Auto Adjust Exposure. And we see that the exposure is pretty darn good on this shot. So I'll hit Command Undo, or sorry, Control Z for undo. Hit it again. Whoops. And so it brightens up the image just a little bit when I hit the auto and when I go back. Now if I did that on this next image, I'm sure we'll see a little bit more of a difference. Yeah, it opens the image up quite a bit. So, and the other thing you can do right away is on this first image here, you can look at the histogram and you'll notice that the histogram is pretty good. You want, you know, a solid curve going from left to right, from your dark tones to your midtones to your highlights. This image here could use a little bit of levels in the midtones area there. So now to reset the palette, so a real quick way to do that is just hit this arrow here and it resets everything back. So now my midtones adjustment has set back to the midpoint and I can start doing further adjustments from there. Okay, so let's back up for a second and go back to the import dialog box and take a look at exactly what we're doing when we're importing images. So you've got import from, import to. You can back up to at the same time, so you can select the backup destination. You have tokens that you can use for naming. You can look at metadata, file info, and adjustments. Now, to be honest, I never use adjustments, file info, metadata, naming for sure. Backup to, I don't usually bother with. I back up my images by copying from one drive to another, but that's certainly something that's available to you should you so want to do that. So import from, and basically you just click here, choose a folder. I've selected Capture One Intro, and you can also include subfolders by ticking the box. Destination, where are the images going to be brought into? Well, in my case, they're going to reside inside the catalog. Now you have the current location, okay, and I don't recommend, you know, setting that to a memory card. You want to bring your images into onto your local hard drive for sure. You can choose a folder and off you go. Recent imports only, another option that you can check. And then coming down here for naming, you have different tokens that you can use to name the. So in this case, I've just selected test catalog. But if you click on this dialog here, you can pick from any of a myriad of tokens, and there are quite a few of them to accommodate every possible naming convention you and I could think of. So really great for identifying your images that way. So then it's really just a matter of selecting the two images that you want or images that you want and click import images, and away we go. So I'm just going to hit cancel here. Now, if you're coming over from Aperture, another thing that I found really useful is that if we go back to the file menu here, you have user collections. So I'm going to create a collection. I'm going to create an album, and I'm going to call it River Images, and click Create. And so now I have something called River Images, and I can take these two images here and drag them over into River Images. And then when I click on River Images, this album, I can see the two images here. Now the important thing that I want to point out here is that you're not duplicating the images, so you're not doubling the space on your local hard drive. You are creating a reference to the master image that was brought into your catalog, and that's it. So you don't have to worry about using up twice the hard drive space. This is simply a reference. You can hit the minus sign and delete it, and I just find it's a great way. You know, I typically will bring my images in a hurry. I just have the date up here. But if I want to put some special name on them, like Josie's wedding or, you know, Bobo's birthday or whatever it happens to be, you can do that here. So later on when you come back, you may not remember the date, but you'll darn sure remember the name that you put on the album. And I just find that, you know, that's another tip I found that really helps me to locate images quickly. Now another thing you'll notice in the bottom right hand corner, it gives you some of the information from when the image was shot. ISO 100, 1/13 of a second, f2.8, 70mm lens. There's the name of your image down there. And then over on the right hand side here, you'll see 5 looks like bullet points. And if I hit the number 5 key, that means that this image has been given a 5-star rating. if I right-click on the image, I can put a color tag by simply coming down and selecting green. So the beauty of that is if you look on the right-hand side here, now you see you've got one image with a color tag, one image that has a 5-star rating, and then you have the green color tag here that you can click on to show the images that have the green color tag. And there you go. So we've got one. If I come here, I've got one with a 5-star rating. If I take it back to none, I can simply click on this one here to see all my 5-star images, or I can come down and click here to see anything with a green color tag that was put on the image. Okay guys, so that's it for this one. My apologies for the slight drone in the background. That's my PC making a little bit of a whirring noise there in the background. I've played around with trying to keep the machine as quiet as possible, having watched all you guys, you know, building PCs, and you've all got them sitting on your desktops. And I've learned a bunch of information about how to keep the noise down, but still, when you're using a microphone like my Asden Pro XD here, it's pretty sensitive. It'll pick up a mouse fart at 300 yards, so apologies for that. Maybe I'll run some noise cancellation on this when I render the video out, but I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.